All right, guys. Well, this is the first live I've ever done on YouTube. So just bear with me here for a minute, trying to get used to how this works. And looks pretty straightforward. So first and foremost, I was on a live today with Garage Gym Strength. I wasn't on their live. I was just watching his live. And if you guys don't follow Garage Strength, I would highly recommend you do, especially if you're a coach. He's got a lot of great content. And I've been following him for a bit. We did a review of his program a few months ago. And that review was just kind of one of those reviews that I kind of stumbled upon, and a lot of people did request a review of his program. So, I'm happy to take those requests and get into those reviews. But for those of you coming on today, and I don't think there's going to be that many of you, but I more or less wanted to get comfortable doing this and figuring out how this whole system works and making sure that one, I know how to do these because I think that they are incredibly valuable, and two, to give you guys a little bit of backstory on myself. We're going to work really hard to put out a lot of content this year, not just programming reviews, but content related to anything to programming. So, things like building the aerobic system, how to program concurrently in the most effective way, how to improve lifts, squat, bench, deadlift, how to get those things up. Maybe in different ways that you might be imagining. I've seen a lot of content for this. I know it tends to be pretty popular. So there's a lot of things that we can delve into with that. Systems of training like full body training and using conjugate with a combination of energy systems development. That's something that I've written extensively about over the years, and I will do my best to create video content around that this year. So without further ado, I just wanted to give you guys some backstory about who I am, where I'm coming from. I got into the online space in 2015, and that was from programming for CrossFit gyms. I was a gym owner, started programming for CrossFit gyms, and that took off very fast. And within about a year's time, I was working with 100 gyms. And then within 18 months, I was working with 200 gyms, which was pretty crazy to say the least, because at the time, there wasn't a whole lot of technology. We didn't have any fancy apps or anything like we have today. So a lot of what I was delivering was through just a Google Sheet, which, even saying now is kind of crazy. But that's my first introduction to online training was really through CrossFit gyms and being a gym owner. I was a CrossFit gym owner myself. I was a CrossFit athlete myself. A lot of the reviews I'm doing are CrossFit. A lot of them are streams of CrossFit programming. And, we did a fair amount of content over the years. I've written over 500 articles. You guys can see any of my articles on my website, Elite FTS, T Nation. Elite FTS is a hub of a lot of great articles. So if you're interested in learning more about anything I talk about on here, even in some of the reviews, we get into kind of the nuances of program design and maybe even diving deeper into things like concurrent training, specifically, using a conjugate style of programming for general fitness. There's a lot of information about that. So check out my Elite FTS author page. You just type in Elite FTS Jason Brown, it'll come up, and you can certainly pick through some of that stuff. So that is kind of the frame of reference where I'm working from. I know that a lot of people have asked about doing reviews on specific things, and we started doing reviews this year. It was actually an idea my wife had. Geez, probably 4 or 5 years ago now. And the reason she had that idea was because at the time, there was not a whole lot of people that were providing programming to CrossFit gyms. I was one of the only people. And then, that changed. Within a few years, that there started to be more and more people in the space. And one of the struggles with that is, and one of the reasons I left doing programming for CrossFit gyms is because a lot of people are pretty much convinced that if they do more, they'll get more. And that's unfortunately not how the human body works. There is a point of diminishing returns. So I got to a point where I just didn't feel passionate about programming specific modalities anymore. I didn't feel that doing a lot of the things that were expected in a CrossFit setting were things that I aligned with anymore. And so I got away from CrossFit. And before I got into CrossFit, I came from the strength and conditioning world, and specifically, a lot of time spent learning about the conjugate system, training through various coaches that were Westside guys. So I had a little bit more of a unique background, I would say. And that allowed me to do things in a different way and to really be stuck in the core principles. So that, kind of how that progressed over time was I just didn't feel like doing certain things anymore. And I knew that low hanging fruit for people was not doing kipping anything. It was not doing Olympic lifting. It was not doing, potentially building an entire month of programming around a hero workout. There's a lot of things that happen when you do that stuff. But what I felt very, very serious about was more or less the fundamentals and low hanging fruit. And a lot of these reviews, I talk about low hanging fruit. What is low hanging fruit for most people? Low hanging fruit is number one, reducing stress. Okay. We know that we live in a chronically stressed out society. People are just bombarded by stress on a day to day basis through their career, through their lifestyle. And adding more stress isn't usually the recipe for success. So we do things to mitigate that. We do things like zone two aerobic work, where we combine different elements of aerobic work with body weight and light loaded carries, things of that nature. The other piece of the puzzle is strength training, and that's probably not going to come as a surprise to anyone on here. I think there's two of you, but anyone maybe watching this after the fact, it's not going to come as a surprise. So when you neglect where people are characteristically weak, we're sitting in these postures on a day-to-day basis, which are essentially more adduction, so in more internal rotation. So when you think about how do we pull people out of that and potentially put strength and volume into tissues that need it, we think about the upper back complex, we think about the glute complex. I mean, really the whole posterior chain. And when I see a program that doesn't do any of that, my last program review, there was none of that. There was no horizontal pulling. There was no direct glute work. Those are red flags to me as a coach. Now, you don't have to agree with me. That's perfectly fine. But those are areas of low hanging fruit. So if I was to think about just kind of low hanging fruit, it would be just we prioritize things like the foundational movement patterns, your squat, single leg, hinge, lunge, push, pull, carry. And we do some level of conditioning, whether it be low intensity or be some moderate intensity. And we make sure that we have some organization of that throughout the week. Pretty simple, right? It's not rocket science. And again, as I said, early on, there's a lot of information. I've got a lot of content on this on the internet, and I'm going to create more content about this stuff in the coming weeks and months to have on this channel. So I hope you guys check that stuff out. And, another thing I wanted to address today was a lot of you had, negative feedback on the last review, which is perfectly fine. I appreciate, any and all feedback. And a lot of the feedback was related to the video briefs, which I did not view when I did that review. And admittedly, I did not, I say in most of these reviews that there are some things that I am not doing the homework on. I am looking at the fundamentals of the program. To watch a 10-minute review, a 10-minute breakdown for each day would not be something I have the bandwidth to do. Now, you might be saying, well, I should do that because I'm doing a review. But in all honesty, guys, I'm looking at the fundamentals. So how is the week structured? How are the exercises laid out in a day? What type of energy demands are we working with on a day-to-day basis? If we go from maximal strength to aerobic, to accessory work, to aerobic or anaerobic, then there's a lot of different things that are happening as far as bioenergetics, how the body uses energy in a day of training. Now, a lot of times what I tend to see, and this is again another reason why I got away from programming for CrossFit athletes, was that they love everything. They want to do everything all the time, and it equates to good programming. Well, guys, unfortunately, that's not how it works. It doesn't necessarily equate to good programming. So when I look at any review, I look at the fundamentals. I look at exercise order, exercise selection, set reps, and rest intervals, all the things I talk about. And you don't have to agree with what I'm seeing, but that's what I'm seeing. And I want to put that out there and just let you guys know that I am as real as I can possibly be on these reviews. Now, I'll be completely honest with you guys. I don't love tearing apart someone's program. I don't enjoy doing it, but what I do enjoy doing is bringing awareness to people that want that information. And as a coach, as a lifelong coach with almost 2 decades of doing this stuff, I feel that there is a lot of misinformation out there right now about training, about what makes a good program. I dealt with it firsthand when I was programming for CrossFit gyms. Admittedly, I had 200 gyms, and a lot of the clients that were using that programming, would concede the fact that they're stronger, they're healthier, they're doing better in the open, but they don't feel the training is hard enough. And I would always use the analogy, if you could make more money and work less hours, would you do it? Of course, no one would answer no to that. At least no one that I know. So if you can make more money and work less hours, would you do it? That's training is the same way. So it's not about maximal, it's about optimal. And this is something I learned from Louis Simmons over the year, that Maximal is a different end of the spectrum. And can you get results from Maximal? Sure. But is it going to be sustainable long term? That's another question. I have not seen that to be the case. I've actually never seen anyone train with me. And right now we've got about 1,000 people training with us, and we sell about 10 to 15,000 programs, digital products per year. Okay, so a lot of people are using my training, so there's a lot of data points. I don't say that to brag. I say that just as a learning curve and something that we're always collecting data points on and making sure that we're in the know. Now, using things like apps, we have the ability to look more deep into people's trainability. They're in terms of compliance, what are they doing in terms of the training sessions? So a lot of different things that we can potentially plug into. But I want to let you guys know that I appreciate all of you being here. I have made it my duty, my mission to educate more people on this stuff. And I feel like I'm coming into this late. I'm coming into YouTube late in the game. I spent a lot of time writing articles. I wrote a book that was 70,000 words that I've made almost no money on. And to be honest, I didn't write the book to make money. I wrote it to, get the information into the hands of people, for less than $30. So a lot of information out there for free. Of course, absorb all the information on here. I'm going to put out for free. I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can to get more of this information out there to you guys. And like I said, I appreciate every single one of you following, commenting, liking, disliking, even if it's a negative comment. It is what it is. I think that we can all have a good discussion, a civil discussion. You're never going to see me, being disrespectful to anyone. And that's something I pride myself on. I try to treat everyone the same. I've got 3 young kids. I want to be a good role model to my kids as their father. So, like I said, I appreciate all of you guys being here. And it looks like we've got a couple of questions, which makes me excited, guys, because there's only a couple of you here. But I'm really excited to potentially do more of these. And, as we get into this, I'll definitely do more of these and plan them out. And I'm still learning. I feel like YouTube is like this just new language, right? I mean, I'm looking at Garage Strength, their YouTube channel, and they're doing polls and they're doing all sorts of cool things. And I'm like, oh, wow, I don't even know what's going on here. I spent the majority of my time on Instagram the last few years. And, I do want to do more here because I feel like the long form content is something I love doing. I hate short form content. I hate doing reels. I hate trying to get someone's attention in 3 seconds. I would rather do a 30-minute video about programming. And, if 3 people watch it, I would be pumped up about that. So anyways, enjoy the Hard Work Pays Off review. I really appreciate that, man. I appreciate you taking the time to watch. And like, as I said, if I was just going to boil that down to like, how can we just potentially, what would a better program look like? It would have more organization. And of course, like if I'm going to recommend someone do a CrossFit program, the ones that I've looked at, Marcus Filly would be the best one out of that. His program is methodical. It's very well laid out, and it's perfect for CrossFit people because CrossFitters don't necessarily align with studies. Someone mentioned studies on one of the posts. There's a lot of psychology to this training. So, I always am about trading a little bit of effectiveness for fun. Long-term compliance is better than short-term compliance. And resting 2 to 3 minutes between one exercise at a time, in theory, might get you better results. But the question is, are you going to do it long-term? And for most people that are type A like myself, this is exactly how I am. I like to have a little bit more feeling, if you will, feel like I'm doing more. I don't think anything's wrong with any of these people that are putting out bad programs. I think that if you are potentially putting someone in a bad position in terms of just an inordinate amount of volume, that's another issue in and of itself. And some people just don't know what they don't know. One of the reviews I did, there was 300 repetitions of direct abdominal work before you squat and bench heavy. I don't know how that would play out for anyone. Even an elite level athlete, even myself, when I would consider myself probably not elite, but high level in terms of, when I was playing football, as well as, being, I guess, a retired CrossFitter now, if you will. So I don't think that Matt Fraser's program is the worst. I don't think it's overkill on volume at all. I've seen some that are overkill. His is not overkill. It's just very kind of disorganized. And it could be substantially better with some small tweaks. And I will say that I've seen Matt Fraser talk about programming before, and he says things that don't make sense. Anyone that knows a little bit about exercise phys will know that he talks about lactic acid like it still causes burning in local tissues. And we know that that's not the case. So those are kind of red flags to me. And again, if you like the program and you're doing it, and guys, anyone that's doing the program, you like it, That's amazing. I'm happy that you're doing it. I'm happy that you're enjoying it. And to be completely honest, you probably wouldn't like my program. My program is significantly less. It's going to ask you to rest longer. We're going to do, zone 2 work, which is going to be very slow, steady state. It's not going to feel hard. But usually people that come to me are people that have been training 10 plus years and are ready to kind of like have just, a different layout, if you will, and to do things in a different way. And again, I'm not knocking anyone. I think that there's a place for everyone. And like I said, a lot of the people that love that program definitely wouldn't like mine. Should military special operations athlete be training specific rucking, swimming, hiking, general athletic programs? Jose, that's a great question. So there is a guy that I have become friends with on Instagram. His name is Terminator Training. He just got out of the military. He was a Green Beret. He's got his Ranger tab. And he puts out some phenomenal content about tactical and training specific for selection. Follow him, check out his content because he knows more about that than I do. It's funny. I've seen a lot of his content now, and I would tell you that he has probably got very similar views that I do. He doesn't think that you should be training like the specificity of selection. He thinks you should be training to get stronger and build capacity and things like the aerobic system. So I think, and I would agree with him wholeheartedly, that's how I structure my tactical programs. And I think that he's a wealth of information. And I love people that have done it. He's been there and he's done it. I have not been there like he has. I was in the military, but I wasn't a special operator like he was, which pains me to say because that was my lifelong goal and it didn't work out for me. But maybe someday we'll get into that story because I'd love to tell you guys more about that. Limited room in my garage gym. Which item would provide me the most benefit? Oh, wow. That's a tough one. Honestly, I'm biased. I would say a ski erg. I like the ski erg mainly because I'm sitting, as I am right now, I'm sitting at this desk in my office most of my day. And albeit I love the air bike. I have the Echo bike, which you referred to. Yeah, the Echo bike is phenomenal. But the ski erg, I love that it gets me up. But I will say the caveat to that is I don't like doing the ski erg for extended periods of time. Maybe I'm just being a bitch, but I don't like doing it for longer. I like doing it for intervals. But I think that longer term, if you want to be on something like steady state at a slower pace, the Echo bike's probably better fit. But again, you're going to have to make that decision. I would probably go with the skier. Knees over toe. Eric, hey man, what's going on? Yeah, no, I so far I like what I've seen from knees over toe. I think anything, there's never a one size fits. And I will tell you, I've experimented with some knees over toe work, knees over toes, and it tends to flare up some patella tendonitis that I used to get back in my college days. So I don't love doing it all the time. It's kind of one of those things that, is it good for range of motion and ankle mobility? 100%. But I don't think it's a one size fit. But I do think the premise of, he's hitting the hamstrings very hard. They're doing Nordic leg curls, which is a very advanced movement. I'd recommend, starting with something like a glute ham raise and then potentially progressing to an assisted Nordic leg curl and then maybe a Nordic leg curl. So I think the premise of it is good, but I don't know a whole lot beyond that. So for me to comment any further, I don't think would make a whole lot of sense. But yeah, so guys, if there isn't any more questions, we can certainly do another one of these soon. I'm definitely willing to hang on here for a few minutes and see what you guys bring up for questions. But I'm super excited to do more on YouTube. I have so many great ideas. And for those of you guys that may be new to my channel, check out some of my older videos. I did a few last year. There's one called How to Build GPP or 4 Ways to Build GPP, which it didn't get a ton of views, but I love that video because I think that there is a lot that you guys could potentially take from that video. There's one about 2 aerobic conditioning methods, which are staples in all of my programs. There's another one called 3 Ways to Build Strength Fast. Hopefully you guys are writing this down. You're probably not, but I get excited talking about this stuff. And I think that, if you wanted to check out some of those videos, I would really appreciate it and love to hear your thoughts on some of that stuff, because I do think that that stuff is incredibly valuable. Isometrics, I don't love and I don't program that often. More specific situations are when I would use isometrics with someone that's very strong and wants to potentially crack a plateau with their squat, bench, or deadlift. Now, if you wanted to use them in a body weight setting, you could use them in a split squat variation. You could use them in a push up where you're essentially a few inches over the floor. Outside of that, split squat, obviously, you could do a squat variation as well. It's probably not going to be very challenging. You'll be able to hold it for too long. Typically, you want 3 to 6 seconds, 3 to 6 second isometric hold. So you're going to need to find ways to challenge it to make it a very hard 3 to 6 seconds. And, the question is, can you do that with body weight effectively? Maybe for a certain length of time, but long term, you're probably going to want to use some resistance or pull against pins or something of that nature. Thoughts on neck training? That's a good question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. I would say that it is very individual. If you have, everyone's got specific postures. I know for me, I've experimented with neck training. I haven't had great results with it. A lot of the neck training that I have done is indirect, more of, doing power cleans, doing deadlifts, trap bar deadlifts, loaded carries. I've got relatively big traps, and it's really just from years of doing a lot of that work. I've experimented with things like the iron neck. I actually bought an iron neck. I used it for about a month, and it really flared up some issues that I had going on, and it didn't work well for me. So I think anything, apply it with care, but know that depending on someone's posture, I would like to see more of an assessment of that individual, like through a chiropractor. For me, if I do iron neck exercises, any type of movement, flexion, extension, I need to be in like a slight, bit of lordosis to make sure that I'm not aggravating. And it goes a little bit deeper than I can explain right here. But my point being is that it is very individual, and it's not something I would necessarily apply to anyone. You are going to more than likely be good to go. You do things like power cleans, loaded carries, trap bar carries are another great one. Wheelbarrows, another great one, which again is in that video I just referenced. You're going to get a lot of work done to the traps, and which will obviously help with essentially training that tissue and making sure that people are strong and they can, for instance, if they're a football player and they're hitting people, they're going to be able to resist that force. I love the landmine rotation and press. Rotational exercise. It's a good one to just build motor control. A lot of people are very awkward with it. I love using med balls too. Again, a good motor control component there. So you have a lot of things that going on. You can certainly teach someone to have more, more accuracy as well as motor control, but obviously you can use it in a power-based session. And landmine rotation. And I see a lot too with Landmine University. Looks like they're doing some great things. I've tried a few of those exercises, and I will say I was pretty humbled because I was not good at them at first. So I definitely, those are things that you certainly need to learn first. But then once you've learned it and mastered it, then you can start introducing more velocity. Jose, probably not. My life doesn't really permit anything outside of what I'm currently doing. I've got 3 young kids, and it's really hard. I mean, a lot of you guys that are parents know time is limited, and to potentially work in a university setting wouldn't really make sense to me. For what it would be in terms of what I would make pay wise, it would make sense for me to stay online. There's a lot of opportunity online for any of you guys that are coaches that are looking to level up your online business. There is literally a lot of possibilities online. Specifically if you're interested in working with people one-on-one, or maybe even in a group setting. But no, I think that ship has kind of set sail for me. But it was definitely something that was more appealing to me when I was younger, in my 30s. But now it's just like, time is finite, and I do not want to be away from my kids. I like seeing my kids as much as I do. And I wouldn't want to impair that. All right, guys. Any other questions? Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm always happy to help. And like I said, I think, hopping on here today, I didn't really have any goals. I wanted to hop on here, see what this is all about, and hopefully, let you guys just know who I am as a person and potentially share some more resources with you. There's lots of them on my website as well. There's probably about 60 or 70 articles on my site, but There's a lot of content that you can absorb for free. And like I said, there's going to be a lot more here. So if you're not interested in reading articles, and I know things have changed, there's going to be a lot more video, long form content here that you can certainly check out. Seem like the injury industry is heading more towards. Well, I think yes, I would agree with you. This is the thing, guys. You really need every program needs to have conditioning, and a lot of programs are just focusing on strength and hypertrophy. And strength and hypertrophy is great, but it'll only take you so far. So I've been talking about this stuff like I feel like forever now. As far as having a program that includes aerobic conditioning, even if you are a strength and power athlete, you should still do aerobic conditioning. So I feel like yes, they are certainly going that way. I just gave a talk in October in Tennessee to a group of coaches, and the main point of that talk was there's 3 points, but one of the main points, the first point, was that every program should have conditioning. And I will tell you, a lot of people are not plugging in conditioning into the program. You see some of the reviews; not a lot of them don't have conditioning. Why would you not include something that is vital? It supports everything that we then build upon. The aerobic system is responsible for how we recover, how we feel, how we recover between sessions and during sessions. How essentially having more mitochondria means more factories to generate oxygen for repair. So we know that the aerobic system is highly important in terms of recovery, but we also know that it'll help us live longer and tolerate stress better. We know that there are specific ways that we need to do it. And I will tell you guys that one of the misconceptions is we just lift weights faster, and that will essentially help us to improve aerobic capacity. But that's not true, because when we lift weights faster, we drive blood pressure up, which has more restriction and doesn't have the same adaptation, specifically in the heart, that we have when we do slower, long distance, slow cardio, cyclical style, run, bike, row, those types of things. You don't have to do a ton of it either. We do 2 to 3 hours total a week, and that's plenty. So again, when I look at these programs, of course, my bias is, hey, if I was just going to say like blanket statement for everyone, it would be do 2 to 3 full body strength sessions a week. Prioritize your squat, your single leg, your hinge, your push, your pull, maybe a carry, some direct abdominal work. And of course, you can get more granular with the abdominal work, but just, kind of just blanket terms here. And then do a couple days a week of zone 2, where you stay in the 60 to 70% max heart rate, and you do it at a sustainable pace, ideally on a cyclical piece, again, like run, bike, row, something of that nature. And that's going to keep blood pressure low. That's going to allow for more, eccentric hypertrophy, which is a phenomenon that takes place specifically in the left ventricle of the heart, and yada, yada, yada. I'm not here to get super sciencey today. I'm happy to do that in future lives. But like I said, this information is certainly out there. And yeah, you know what? Funny, Jose, CrossFit woke me up to it too. Without CrossFit, I was always a strength guy. Excuse me. I was always a strength guy. And I was one of the people that believed that if you did any type of endurance work, you would get slower, weaker, fatter. And that's what we always thought. I'm 40 years old. This was, 2004, 5, 6. And I will tell you, from CrossFit, it started to open up my eyes to what was going on there. And actually, it's funny, a local gym that beat us in the open every year. We would always miss making regionals in the open by like 1 spot. And this gym local to us would always make regionals by like 2 spots. So I finally put my tail between my legs and I reached out to the coach. This was in 2015. And I said, actually, it might have even been before that. It might have been like 2013, because I was programming for CrossFit gyms in 2015. And I said, hey, what are you guys doing that I'm not doing? I feel like I'm dropping the ball here. My athletes are strong AF, but they don't have the capacity that yours do. What are you doing that I'm not doing? And needless to say, which kind of goes right into this next question here, he told me to read Ultimate MMA Conditioning by Joel Jamieson. And I read that book, guys, and it turned everything on its head for me. I had this awakening. And the first thing I did was start implementing what's in the book referred to as the cardiac output method. And I have a video about this. I wonder if I can even pull it up now while I'm on this. Maybe not. Next time I will have maybe my wife on an alternate screen to drop these links in here for you guys. But I do have a video on it. It's essentially zone 2 work, and you're doing, 30 minutes at a minimum, 30 to 60 minutes per session. And that's what really changed things for me. So I started implementing this in conjunction with doing conjugate training, which that's where Conjugate X Conditioning, my training that I've been using now since 2016, I think, 2017. was born. Combination of those two things. So that is a book I would highly recommend. Ultimate MMA Conditioning by Joel Jamieson. I mean, I got my, you know, a shelf of books here right now, and I will tell you that the ones I always refer to are kind of the same ones. Periodization, and there's multiple editions. I have Bompa in half. I don't know what edition. It's the 5th edition, which I know there is a newer edition, and I don't know if the newer one's better or what's the difference. But that's the one I have. That is a staple for me. Super Training is another great book, guys. It's a novel though. It's 671 pages, and it's funny. I got this book, Super Training, here, and this is something I've used over the years. You see how many bookmarks are in it. Very, very dense book. Yuri Verkhoshansky, Mel Sif, and it is a novel, though. So do you need to read it cover to cover? I would say no. I would say it's a reference, something that you refer to and you learn new things from. The guy that asked a question about isometrics, I don't know if you're a coach or not, but if you are, you could read that book and learn more about isometrics. So it's all in there for you guys. Jose, I don't know you, man, but I really like you. You're giving me a lot of good stuff tonight. I'm glad you're here. And like I said, earlier, I really appreciate all of you. If you're a coach and you want to learn more, I'm in your corner. I'm happy to support you. We do have a free Facebook group you guys could join, which is all about programming. And again, not trying to, really plug anything here tonight, but grab the link. I think it's in any of my videos. You can join that group. It's called Fitness Programming Simplified. And if you're not a coach and you're just someone that's interested in training, there's lots of good information for you. You can go on my Instagram page, and there's a lot of kind of more digestible, less sciencey, more relatable stuff that you probably would enjoy. And like I said, I'm happy to support all of you guys, whether it's training or it's coaching. And we've got a lot of cool things coming. We do have a few more reviews coming. Hopefully this week. We're getting on with a new video editor right now. We just hired this guy, which some of you probably noticed the videos might look a little different. And we're just waiting. It's kind of a waiting game now. Obviously, holidays, New Year's kind of slowed us down a little bit. But geez, guys, I'd do a video every day if I could. I really would. But there's obviously a lot of things that happen behind the scenes to do that too. So we're working our best. Hopefully, we'll work the kinks out in the coming weeks. And, hopefully by February, we're rocking and rolling and getting out 3 videos a week to you guys. And, like I said, I'm going to do reviews, and I'm going to keep taking your guys' suggestions. Hard work pays off. You guys recommended that one. I did that one because it was a recommendation. We got a few coming up. One that was recommended, one that I just kind of stumbled on and was just kind of crazy. And I just wanted to show you guys it because it was one of those crazier programs. But like I said, there's a lot of other things, like basically anything I've written an article on, I want to do a video for. And I'm open to your suggestions too. If there's something specific that you guys want to hear or want to learn about, just let me know. And I think you guys can comment on this live after it's over. Excuse me for not knowing, but like I said, it's my first one. So, just trying to get the bugs out. Jose, I appreciate that, man. I'm really looking forward to growing this thing and reaching more of you and connecting with more great people. There's so many great people out there. I know the internet kind of, you get a lot of haters, you get a lot of people that are negative. I'm trying to just be better about kind of not engaging in that stuff and not not letting it ruin my day too, because I'm a human being. I'm a human being at the end of the day. I take what I do very seriously, and I still, get sensitive about some of this stuff. When someone says, hey, they hated the video and I suck, I'm a human being and it still sometimes stinks. So either way, guys, I'm super excited to connect with more of you. And for those of you that are here, like I said, I really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we're going to do more of these in the near future. So until that time, I'll see you soon. And hope you guys are having a great new year thus far.